Om Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The foundation for your life should be based on the Vedantic knowledge. The knowledge of Vedanta helps you to solve all problems. See, what we've been studying in the symbolism class is how in each of these gods and goddesses, in each of these festivals, epics, the base is nothing but the philosophy. So it is a philosophy that is being shown in various forms. The significance of that is the wider application of the Vedantic knowledge. So Vedanta is not meant for a few people who are only interested in self-realization, but Vedanta is meant for the masses, for the majority to apply it in their own lives. The help that Vedanta will give you is beautifully illustrated by an example given by Adi Shankara. The example given is a person wants to go, let's say, from London to Edinburgh. You want to go drive from London to Edinburgh. You ask for directions, and your friend tells you, he's a regular commuter. He tells you, see, this is the direction to go from London to Edinburgh. And you go, you follow his directions. The next day you come back, you say, listen, next week I need to go to Wales, to Cardiff. Another friend says, okay, fine, go this way to Cardiff. And you go that way. And then after another week, I need to go to Cornwall. So different directions you're going, you're asking for directions again and again. Now, instead of that, in the beginning, if you were to tell that person, listen, this is north. Suppose you point out which is north. What do you instantly understand when you tell a person this is north? What does that person automatically understand? He understands that is north. Immediately understand the opposite direction is what? Is south. He understands this is east. He understands that is west. All that you have told him is this is north. But by telling him this is north, automatically he knows other directions as well. South, east, west. Not only these four directions, he knows hundreds of other directions. He knows what is northwest. He knows northeast, southwest, southeast, south, southwest, north, northeast. Hundreds of directions he knows. All that you have taught him is what? This is north. So once you teach a person the basics, they will be able to figure out the rest of the things in their life. How to relate to your family, how to relate to your friends, how to do well in exams, in the interviews, how to run your business. Every aspect of life can be learned. But the base is what is important. What is that base? This is north. So that is what Vedanta philosophy is. It just shows you the direction. And what is the direction? It shows you how to strengthen the intellect, how to develop the intellect. And once you develop that intellect, you can apply the intellect in any field and you will shine. Whatever field you want. Sometimes people come and ask, we want to find a partner. I want to get married. You understand? Same principle. If you have an intellect, you will know exactly how to figure that out. So every aspect of life you'll be able to work it out. So today we are going to examine a very popular god, Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna is the eighth avatar of Vishnu. The 10 avatars is number 8. And Krishna, as we all know, is a very popular character, is a very popular god because of the multifaceted personality of his. The way they have described Krishna, the way they have painted Krishna is a multifaceted depiction which you don't see in any other god or goddess. So many different qualities, diverse qualities are combined in one person. So Krishna is worshipped as Jagannatha, the Lord of the universe. He is worshipped as Gopala, the protector, as Govinda, the shepherd, as Parthasarathy. Parthasarathy means the charioteer to Partha. Partha is another name for Arjuna. Sarathi means charioteer. Partha means Arjuna. Charioteer to Arjuna. There's an idol in South India, in Chennai, in the Parthasarathy temple. And if you go there, you'll find an idol of Krishna with spots on his face. Spots on his face, all around his face, there's spots, spots, spots. So people wonder, what is all these spots? Why these spots are there? What they don't understand is, since he is the charioteer to Arjuna, he faces the arrows before it reaches Arjuna. You understand? So all the spots are the different arrows which has been pierced. You understand? He's taken the hit before it even goes to Arjuna. But he's unarmed. He fought unarmed. So Parthasarathy is another depiction. And one thing unique about Krishna, which you don't find in any other god or goddesses, is the playful nature. So right from a child, Krishna is naughty. In fact, his mother had to tie him up to a tree. He was so naughty. So when I meet parents, sometimes the parents say, "Oh, I have two sons. The first son is so quiet, so lovely fellow. The second boy, doesn't listen to anything. He's so naughty, so naughty." As I see, second boy is brighter than the first boy. You understand? So they want me to tell that the first boy is the best, and second boy, he has to change. I twist the whole thing around. I say, no, second boy is the one who has an intellect. The sign of intellect is a person will be naughty, a person will be playful. You understand? See, what is comedy? Comedy, you need to be objective, you need to be detached to bring out the humor. If you're involved, if you're too serious, you can't be humorous. So, naughtiness is a sign of intellect. So, as I see, the second boy has more potential than the first. And it so happens when they grow up, then they see the difference. And not only when he was young, even when he grew up, you could see that playful nature coming up in Krishna, which is quite unique, which is not there in any other depiction. So it shows the maturity of the intellect. Intellect is developed, you become more relaxed, you become more free. So Krishna is said to be a born enlightened soul. Avatar Purusha, a born enlightened soul. Now, if those who've been following these classes, some of you all have come newly to these classes, but those who've been following for a long time, you would straight away pick it up that how can a person who is enlightened be born? Because the moment you're enlightened, you have removed all your vasanas. So when all vasanas are removed, there is no chance for rebirth. So rebirth happens only to those who are not enlightened, who still have vasanas remaining. So how is it possible to have a born enlightened person, born self-realized person. It's not possible. It's a misnomer. Now, what is indicated in that particular example is when the child is born in the mother's womb, the child goes through some experience in the mother's womb. Is there for a good 9 months. So there's a good experience the child goes through, and then the child comes out. So when you say a child is born, it is when the child comes out of the mother's womb, you say it is born. But technically, it is born already when it is in the mother's womb. So when the child spends the time in the mother's womb, that is the experience the child needs to achieve self-realization. So for all practical purposes, when it emerges from the womb, it displays the qualities of self-realized person. But you're forgetting the time it is spending in the womb. So the child has still got vasanas, like Krishna, he still had vasanas, but those vasanas were exhausted in that experience in the child's womb. So that way you can explain it, that he still had vasanas, but those vasanas were also exhausted, and then it came out self-realized. So you see the meaning of that word, avatara. The meaning of that word avatara means descent, coming down, popularly known as an incarnation. So what does it mean coming down? I'll explain that, the significance of coming down. The word Krishna means dark. Krishna means dark or black. The significance of that dark is what is dark to you, what is unknown to you is the self, the Atman within. So Krishna represents the Atman, which is unknown. That unknown Atman is the sentient principle in you. Your matter layers, your body, mind, intellect are inert. So you take your finger, you move your finger, you know, the finger is moving, but you cut the finger and put it on the floor. It just lies like any piece of wood. But when it is connected to your body, you see the finger moves. So there is something other than the finger in the finger which makes the finger move. What is that? So that is that pure consciousness, that is that Atman within. So that Atman within is what makes that inert matter as sentient. Without the Atman, your matter layers are insentient, inert. So that Atman within, you don't know it, it's unknown, but it is that unknown savior in you. Without that Atman, you can't do anything. Even the fact that you're breathing is because of that consciousness or that Atman. So see the meaning of that word, Krishna. Dark, meaning the unknown Atman, the inner self. Krishna represents the Atman, which is the infinite, and that infinite has come into a human form. So the infinite consciousness has no form. When we say Brahman, Brahman has no form. But when that infinite consciousness appears in a human form, that is Krishna. And that is beautifully indicated by his blue complexion. So Krishna has got a blue complexion. And he wears a dress which is yellow in color. Pitambara, one who is clothed in yellow. Blue, clothed in yellow. Blue is the color of infinity. The sky is blue, the oceans are blue. Yellow is the color of earth. Any object, if you put it in the earth, after a while it develops an yellowish tint. So sky represents infinite, which is blue in color, and earth means matter, means the world. So that infinite reality has come into that finite form. If you directly understand this, you don't need a depiction. But those who don't understand it, they show it in a form. So infinite has come into a finite form. So see that depiction. Pitambara, one who is clothed in a yellow. But then the description doesn't stop there. Now, how can that infinite Atman be restricted in a finite form? So that infinite Atman cannot be restricted. So though Atman is in the individual, though the Atman is in you, it cannot be restricted. It is free. And that is what is depicted as soon as Krishna was born. Where was Krishna born? Krishna was born in a prison. He was born in a prison. He was shackled. But as soon as he was born, the gates of the prison were flung open. And his father Vasudeva picked him up and took him out of the prison. So he was protected. He was freed from the prison from birth. So what it indicates is, though that infinite has come into a finite form, it cannot be restricted. It cannot be constricted. So the Atman in you is not restricted. Your body is restricted. Your mind is restricted. Intellect is restricted, but not the self, not the Atman. Krishna was born in Mathura, and right from his birth, he was hunted by his own uncle, Kamsa, because the prophecy said that somebody will come and kill Kamsa. So Kamsa was scared. So then what did he do? He was after Krishna. It was all the time after Krishna. And demons upon demons were sent to kill Krishna. Right from he was a child. So the significance is Mathura represents land of sweetness. Madhuram means sweetness. Mathura is a land of sweetness. So what is that land of sweetness? Means your essential nature, your true self within, the Atman within is pure, is sweet, is divine, is blissful. That land was spoilt by his own uncle, Kamsa. Kamsa along with his lieutenant, Chanura. Both of them spoiled Mathura. They destroyed the beauty of Mathura. What does Kamsa indicate? Kamsa indicate ego and Chanura, egocentric desires. So the ego and egocentric desires within you spoil your real nature, spoil the Atman within. So Krishna means the knowledge of the self comes in to rescue your personality. See, all this is happening within you. It's being depicted as stories outside, but it is happening within your own bosom. So, ego and egocentric desires destroy the self within. So, when you destroy, so Krishna destroyed Kamsa and Chanura. When that ego and egocentric desires are destroyed, the sweetness is restored. Mathura gets back to that state of bliss. So, what you're studying in those stories, you've got to apply it yourself. In a little way. You don't need to go to the highest level. Little way, can I gain some knowledge? Can I reduce my ego? Can I reduce my desires? A little way. If you do it, then you see the bliss in your life. You see the transformation in your own life. So when Krishna was there in Mathura, there was a serpent a demon serpent who came into the waters and was infusing poison in the waters. And this snake was called Kalia. Kalia was a snake. It was a multi-headed snake, a snake with many heads. And it was causing havoc to the residents there. So the story goes that Krishna goes and first of all warns the serpent. The serpent doesn't listen. So Krishna starts fighting with that serpent. It tries to coil Krishna. It, in fact, even swallows Krishna. But Krishna comes out of its belly and then dances on its head. It destroys the snake. In fact, Krishna is about to kill the snake when the wives of the snake come and pray to Krishna and say, please, please, don't kill our husband. They plead, to which Krishna leaves. He doesn't kill the snake, but he dances on the head. So the significance is that the snake represents the ego. So you don't kill that ego, but you conquer that ego. The wives of that snake represents the many desires which are frustrated by the ego. So when the ego overpowers your personality, your desires get frustrated. So the wives, they surrender to Krishna, meaning your desires have to surrender to the self, and you subdue that ego, then your desires get liberated. The wives of Kalia got liberated. So that whole episode is called as Kaliya Mardana, the destruction of Kaliya, the snake. See that? For those who are not familiar. Kaliya Mardana. It is also depicted in a dance form where they use the word Kalinga Nardana. Both mean the same. Krishna plays the flute. And when Krishna plays the flute, beautiful music comes out. The flute represents an individual. And what is the nature of the flute? The flute is hollow. So the significance is you have removed all your desires. So hollow in the sense, not that you're stupid. So hollow means that all your desires you've removed. When you remove all your desires, then that pure consciousness flows through you. So when Krishna blew through that flute, beautiful music came out because it's hollow. Similarly, when you empty yourself of your desires, then Krishna flows through you, the consciousness flows through you, and there's beautiful living. Your living becomes beautiful, which is what Christ also indicates. He said, empty thyself, I shall fill thee. Empty thyself, empty yourself of your vasanas, of your desires, I shall fill thee. Krishna's breath fills you, the consciousness fills you. Another popular episode are the gopis who dance around Krishna. Gopis are the milkmaids of Vrindavan. And all the gopis, they congregated around Krishna and they were all the time dancing around Krishna. The significance is that the gopis represents the thoughts. The thoughts dance around your Atman. They dance around the consciousness. The thoughts on its own are insentient. It is the consciousness that enlivens the thoughts. Thoughts have a life on their own because of that Atman, because of the consciousness. So the gopis came alive in the presence of Krishna. Gopis represent thoughts. Krishna represents the consciousness. So when the thoughts in you are attuned to Krishna, are attuned to that consciousness. See, what did the gopis do? They were thinking of Krishna the whole day. Their thought was on Krishna the whole day. So when you maintain the thought on that Atman, it becomes a spiritual experience. But the gopis were not sitting still. They were working. They were carrying out their duties throughout the day. So they had the thought of Krishna, but they were doing their duties. So a spiritual seeker should follow that example. You perform your duties, but one thought is always on God, on that self within. And the gopis used to churn the milk and extract butter. And they churned the milk and extracted butter. And what did Krishna do? He came and stole that butter. It is also known as Chitta Chora, you know, Makhan Chor. He steals butter. He's a great stealer. So what is that stealing? Stealing here means the removal of asanas. So through karma yoga, when you perform karma yoga, like the gopis did, they acted, they did the duties. So when you perform your duties, you reduce your vasanas. So that is what is indicated by Krishna stealing that butter. He removes those vasanas. That's why the gopis, they used to be very happy. They say, oh, Krishna stole butter from my house. Oh, is it? Oh my God, he came to my, next he'll come to my house. You understand? So they were very happy that he came and stole butter. So meaning steals the vasanas. See, that is what is indicated in the famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, 66th verse. The famous promise given by Krishna was, if you remove all your vasanas and come to the last vasana, I will remove that. Huh? He says, you get rid of everything and come to the last vasana. I will remove that last vasana, that last desire. Don't worry. So he says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Remove all your vasanas and think of me alone. Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshishyami Masucha. I'll give you moksha. Don't worry. So it's a direct promise given by the Lord. So see that verse. Abandoning all dharmas. Dharmas in this context means vasanas. Abandoning all vasanas, take refuge in me alone. I will liberate thee from all sins. Grieve not. Don't worry. So you keep your thought on me. Think of me at all times. I'll remove that last vasana. So that's the significance of stealing that butter. Krishna had 16,008 wives. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records. So the story goes that he had 16,008 wives. And he was known, the title that he had was Nitya Brahmachari. Brahmachari means a celibate, a person who's single. Nitya Brahmachari means a permanent celibate. His own wives were confused. Say, what is this? 16,008 wives, Nitya Brahmachari. How is this possible? It doesn't make sense. So, what happened was Krishna wanted to teach them a lesson. So, one day, the great sage Durvasa had come to town. And Durvasa was a sage who was known to have anger. You don't mess with Durvasa, he'll curse you. So everybody was scared, And the tradition was that the wives, they used to prepare a meal and they'll go and offer it to the sage. And Durvasa had a capacity to eat plenty of food. He would eat plenty of food. So the wives used to prepare the food and offer it. He'll eat that. The second wife used to come. Everybody's food he used to eat. So the the title with which Durvasa got, the sage got, was Nitya Upavasi, means permanent faster, eternal faster. It doesn't make sense. He's eating so much of food. He's not fasting. He's only eating all the time. But he's known as a permanent faster. So the wives of Krishna, they were taking food for Durvasa because they were scared, the fellow will curse them. So better take the food. So they prepared food and as they were going, they suddenly realized that there were floods. That river was in flood, so they couldn't cross. They didn't check the weather report. So they went. By the time they went to the water there, they didn't know what to do. So they came back to Krishna. They were more scared about Durvasa cursing them. Krishna said, listen, pray to the goddess of the river. She will grant you. So they go and pray to the goddess, and the goddess appeared, and the goddess separated the water, and the wives went. They gave the food to Durvasa. Durvasa ate all the food. They didn't even have to clean the plates, he cleaned it. So clearly ate all the food. Literally, they bought the plates back. So when they were coming back, again the river was in flood. So this time they went to Durvasa and asked, what is this? What can we do? To which Durvasa said, see, you go and ask the goddess and pray to the goddess that if Krishna is a Nitya Brahmachari, let the waters part. They said, what do you say? How can Krishna be Nitya Brahmachari? Durvasa said, listen, you don't have a choice. Just follow what I'm saying. So they went and prayed to the goddess. If Krishna is a Nitya Brahmachari, instantly the waters parted, then they crossed. So they understood the greatness of Krishna through Durvasa. Now, what is the significance? The significance is it's a beautiful episode to highlight. They've actually exaggerated to a point of fault. They've given 16,008 wives. Now, what is the significance is that renunciation is not physical, it is mental. You can contact any amount that you want in the world. It is not your contact with the world that makes you a detached person, makes you renunciate, but where is your mind? So Krishna's mind was not on his wives, were not on the sense objects. Wives there represent sense objects. It's not on sense objects, it is on the self. So when he's contacting the sense objects, it is like playing Monopoly. You all understand Monopoly, the game? When you play Monopoly as an adult, you're not interested in the game. You're doing that to give company to the kids. But the kids are fully involved in the game. So similarly, Durvasa had the same relationship with food. He was not attached to food. His mind was not on food. So therefore, he got the title, Nitya Upavasi. So see that on the screen. The meaning of the two words. Permanent celibate, Nitya Brahmachari. And similarly, Nitya Upavasi means an eternal faster. Even when he was a young boy, Krishna started teaching. So first he taught his foster mother, Yashoda. So one day, Krishna put mud in his mouth. He ate mud. Hmm? So when his Yashoda came and asked, "Hey, open your mouth. You've eaten mud. You've eaten mud." Krishna said, "No, no." He said, "What do you mean? I saw you. I saw you." He said, "No, no." And then she forced him to open the mouth. When he opened the mouth, the whole universe was in the mouth. Hmm? See, the stories, if you ask the older generation particularly, they'll recount all these beautiful stories. So we've heard these stories so many times, but what is the significance of this story? The significance is that Krishna represents the reality. Krishna represents Brahman, the reality. And what is this world? This world, this earth is also a projection of that reality. So Krishna eating mud is the reality eating reality, so to speak. How is it possible for the reality to eat reality? So the reality is all pervading. You can't distinguish the reality. There is no duality. The reality is everywhere. This world is reality. This earth is reality. Everything is reality. But Yashoda did not understand that. She thought of Krishna as a child, as a baby. So he wanted to educate her that it is the same consciousness, it is the same reality everywhere. So when he said, "No, I did not eat the mud," he was speaking the truth, because how can that reality eat that reality? Reality cannot eat reality. But and then when she asked him to open the mouth, she saw the reality, which is the universe. The whole universe is there in Krishna. The whole world is nothing but a projection of that reality. Krishna is a reality. The universe is is a reality that you see. So this universe is a projection of Krishna. Is there within Krishna. Same thing Krishna used to do. You will also find some images of Balakrishna, Krishna as a young baby, sucking his big toe. Sometimes babies do that, lift their foot and suck the big toe. He sucks the big toe. So, what is the significance of that? Same significance. The absurdity is pointing out to the absurdity of humanity. What is the absurdity of humanity? Humanity is trying to find pleasures in the world. And what is the world? The world is nothing a projection of your own self. The world is a projection of your Atman, of your own self. So you're trying to find happiness in your own self. Instead of going within and finding happiness, you're trying to find happiness in the world. And what is the world? World is a projection of yourself. So that absurdity is pointing out by sucking your own toe. You understand the absurdity of finding happiness in the world. Balakrishna. So he's the eternal teacher. All the time he's teaching. And that is the role of a guru. The guru teaches in and through all their actions. Krishna is also depicted as holding a stick in one hand and a jnana mudra in the other hand. So Krishna is holding a stick in one hand. The stick represents his role as a shepherd. So he used to drive cattle, and that is what is indicated by the stick. The jnana mudra is a spiritual symbol. Krishna represents the consciousness, the pure consciousness. Without that consciousness, you can't do any activity. So, stick represents all the sensual pursuits in the world. And all the sensual pursuits also arise from the Atman. Similarly, the spiritual pursuit also arises from the Atman. You have this choice in life. You want to choose this, you want to choose that. Both arise from the Atman. Cattle represents the senses. The quality of the cattle is the cattle graze in the grass. Similarly, your senses are grazing in the world. So you're driving your cattle, you're driving your senses day in and day out to find pleasures in the world. And then when you turn spiritual, you experience that infinite, you experience that Atman, you find that real bliss, the real pleasure. So, what is the significance of the Jnana Mudra? Jnana Mudra is a symbol of wisdom. Your 5 fingers, in these 5 fingers, the thumb holds a more important place than the other fingers, because without the thumb, it is difficult to operate the other fingers on their own. So the thumb represents the Atman. The pointing finger represents the ego. The ego is that which separates you from others. It creates a sense of duality. That's the ego. So this ego is polluting your personality. And what is your personality? Your personality is your body, mind, and intellect. So your body, mind, intellect are polluted by the ego. Your ego is in touch with the body, mind, intellect, it pollutes them. So what is the spiritual path? The spiritual path is to remove the ego from its association with the body, mind, and intellect. You disassociate the ego from the body, mind, intellect, and you combine it with the self, the Atman. Are you all with me? So the three fingers represent the three equipments, body, mind, intellect. You remove the ego from its association with the body, mind, intellect, and you connect it to the Atman, the self. This is spiritual effort. When that pointing fingers meets the thumb, it creates a circle. Circle has no beginning or end. Circle represents the infinite. You become that Atman, you become that infinite consciousness. So remove that ego from the body, mind, intellect, and attach it to the self. So this symbol is known as Jnana Mudra, the spiritual symbol. Is indicative of the efforts that one needs to put in. See the diagram, the symbol of wisdom. And then when you come to the epic Mahabharata, so Krishna is depicted in the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in Mahabharata. So Mahabharata is one of the greatest epics. In fact, the word epic truly fits Mahabharata. Mahabharata consists of 100,000 verses. Ramayana, in comparison, is a quarter of the size of Mahabharata. In fact, Mahabharata is 10 times the size of Iliad and Odyssey. The two great epics in the Western world are Iliad and Odyssey. If you combine Iliad and Odyssey, Mahabharata is 10 times the size. So huge. So for its size, it is also known as the fifth Veda. So the four Vedas, you all know. Mahabharata is also known as the fifth Veda. It is divided into 18 parvas, 18 books, 18 divisions, exactly like the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is also divided into 18 chapters. The central narrative of the Mahabharata, which most of you would be familiar with, is a rivalry between the two royal families, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. The Kauravas had 100 brothers. Kauravas were 100 brothers and one sister, 101. Poor sister, one sister caught up between all the 100 brothers, 100 boys. But also she'll be very pampered, all the brothers pamper one girl. And Pandavas were 5 in number. The Kauravas could not get on with the Pandavas right from the start. And they became bitter, particularly when the crown was offered to Yudhishthira. When Yudhishthira was appointed the king, they just couldn't take it anymore. They became bitter, they became negative. And Krishna tried to mediate and tried to sort out the differences, but the Kauravas wouldn't take it from Krishna. They didn't want to mediate, they didn't want to compromise. So finally, the war broke out. There was no other choice but to go into war. And what was Krishna's role? Krishna was not attached. See, that is beautifully indicated in the episode of Udyoga Parva. In the Udyoga Parva episode of the Mahabharata, Krishna is sleeping, he's resting, and both Duryodhana and Arjuna, they come to Krishna. Krishna is sleeping. So what it indicates is the Atman is asleep. The Atman doesn't get involved in any actions. Atman is the same to all actions. Duryodhana represent the asuric qualities, the demonic qualities in you. Arjuna represent the daivika, the positive qualities. Krishna means Atman. Atman is the same towards both the qualities. So Krishna offers and satisfies both of them. He gives his army to Duryodhana and he gives himself to Arjuna. In fact, both are satisfied. Duryodhana is very happy. Arjuna is happier. But Krishna means Atman. Atman doesn't take sides. It's the same. It's asleep. Means he's not interested in anything. So Krishna and Arjuna represents the Atman and the individual. And Nara, Narayana, the two sages are indicated by Arjuna and Krishna. Nara means man, which is Arjuna. Narayana means God, Krishna. And similarly, Arjuna is depicted as Jivatma, Krishna is the Paramatma. Jivatma is the limited self, your body, mind, intellect. Paramatma is the Atman. See that on the screen. Narayana or Jivatma and Paramatma are indicated by Arjuna and Krishna. So the lower self attunes to the higher self. So Arjuna was attuned to Krishna. Only then he was able to solve all his problems. So just as that Mathura was spoiled by Kamsa and Chanura, similarly, the depiction in the Mahabharata was the Dharmakshetra. Dharmakshetra means the land of Dharma, the land of bliss, was destroyed by Dhritarashtra and his sons, particularly Duryodhana. So when Dhritarashtra came into the picture, he pampered his sons. He did not put a stop to Duryodhana. He pampered Duryodhana, allowed to get him with his wrong ways. That's why Dhritarashtra is depicted as being blind. So what is blind in you is your mind. So Dhritarashtra represents the mind. It is blind. Blind to the Atman, to the reality, to the Dharmakshetra in you. So since the mind is blind, it is ignorant of this reality. It doesn't know the right things to do. It takes wrong decisions. Gandhari, who is Dhritarashtra's wife, she also tied the cloth around her eyes because since her husband was blind, she also tied the cloth and she didn't want to see. So Gandhari represents the intellect. So if she didn't tie the eyes she could see, she could direct Dhritarashtra. Instead, she also chose to be blind. So the intellect, which has to lead the mind, the intellect also becomes blind. It also becomes a captive of the mind. So Gandhari could have directed Dhritarashtra. She couldn't. She became subservient. So the intellect becomes subservient to the mind. As a result, the entire personality is lost. So Sanjaya gives the sermon to Dhritarashtra in the Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya is the charioteer who narrates the whole episode to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya represents an intellect. Sanjaya means one who is well controlled, means the intellect. So intellect is talking to the mind. Sanjaya is talking to the Dhritarashtra. So what is happening within each one of us is what is illustrated in the Mahabharata. The whole war is what is happening within. So what is happening within is your negative thoughts and your positive thoughts are all the time in clash with each other. The negative thoughts outnumber the positive thoughts. That's why the Kauravas were more in number than the Pandavas. But eventually, the positive tendency can destroy the negative tendency. Ultimately, the Pandavas were victorious. But the war paid a heavy price. Practically, both the families were completely wiped off. So, you should avoid that fight within you as much as possible. Once it gets into that fight, it destroys. Like for a person who is a drunkard, he almost gets destroyed before he comes out of it. So your personality should be controlled by the intellect, and that is indicated by the charioteer Krishna taking charge of Arjuna's chariot. So Krishna ensured that the whole personality is protected. The chariot represents the individual. It is a metaphor taken from the Kathopanishad. So, in fact, some of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita come from the Upanishads. Upanishads precedes the Bhagavad Gita. The 5 horses in the chariot represent the 5 senses. Arjuna represents the individual, the jiva. The reins of the horses, the ropes of the horses represents the mind. The charioteer is holding the reins. So Krishna represents the intellect, holding the mind, as a result of which all the senses are under control. You're able to direct the personality in the way that you want. But if you don't hold the reins, you let the reins loose, the senses go in their own direction, the whole chariot is destroyed. The whole personality is destroyed. So the chariot represents the intellect controlling the mind and the senses, as a result of which Arjuna, the individual, the occupier, is protected, is totally protected. You see the image of the chariot. So Arjuna is there, well protected by Krishna, because he surrendered to Krishna. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna places the chariot between the 2 armies. Twice he says in the first chapter, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye. Senayor Ubhayor Madhye. The chariot is placed between the 2 armies. The significance of that is the chariot, as I said, represents the individual. It is between the 2 armies, the positive and the negative tendencies. So you don't take the side of your positive desires nor the negative desires. Instead, you take the side of the Atman. You focus on the Atman. Atman is beyond good and bad. Atman is beyond the pairs of opposites, beyond the dualities in the world. If you do good actions, you get punya. Punya is a result of good actions. Punya means merit. And to exhaust that merit, you're sent to heaven. If you do negative actions, result of negative actions is papa. To exhaust that papa, you're sent to hell. So punya and papa are the result of positive and negative actions. But the Atman is beyond papa and punya, beyond good and bad. So as long as your focus is on Krishna, on the Atman, you're beyond the good and bad. That is illustrated by the chariot strategically placed between the 2 armies. So see that, the significance of that episode. chariot between the two armies represent that the Atman lies beyond good and bad. The result of virtuous actions is punya, merits. Result of vicious actions is papa, demerits. So you go beyond papa and punya. That is spiritual perfection. The festival of Diwali has got two significance. One significance is the story of Rama coming back from the forest into Ayodhya. And when he comes back into Ayodhya, the lamps are lit and they're receiving Rama. That is one of the story, which is more popular in the north of India. In the south of India, there's another story which is connected with Diwali, is Krishna killing Narakasura. And when Krishna kills Narakasura, he liberates all the daughters of the gods who were captured by Narakasura. 16,000 daughters were captured by Narakasura. Narakasura was a titan of hell. He caused havoc not only on earth but also in heaven. So the gods, they surrendered to Krishna and asked for his help. So he went and destroyed Narakasura. Narakasura represents the ego. So the destruction of the ego liberates the wives. Wives there represents the sense objects. Sense objects are stifled because of the ego. So the wives who were captured by Narakasura, they surrendered to Krishna and asked Krishna to accept them as his wives. That's why Krishna got that 16,008. You understand? So he had to accept that. There was no choice, you know. He was the one who liberated them. So he had to give them a home, so to speak. So he accepted. It's all symbolic. What it means is those desires which were frustrated because of the ego now surrenders to the self. So the desires are liberated because they are now in the company of the self. So Diwali is actually comes from the original word Deepavali. Deepavali means a row of lights. Deepam means a lamp. Avali means a row, a cluster, a line. So see that. Deepavali, a row of lights. See, even in the previous classes, I explained the symbolism of the candle. It's exactly like that. The symbolism of a lamp, a traditional Indian lamp, has got the same symbolism as a candle. The oil in the lamp represents your vasanas. The cotton thread, the wick, represents the ego. So when you light the lamp, the light represents knowledge. So knowledge destroys the vasanas and that ego in you. So you focus on Rama or Krishna, both mean the same, mean the self within. In order to reduce your ego and egocentric desires, to reduce the vasanas. As a result, you transcend the world. You become a self-realized person. So that's all for today. And we'll have one more class where we'll finish the book next week. So next week, I will take a few more symbolisms and then we'll be able to complete the book next week. Are there any questions? Minal?
Hello, namaste.
Great.
I just wanted to know, so Krishna is normally depicted in as blue, and my understanding growing up was because he was dark in a complexion. But I noticed that lots of other gods are blue. Like Shiva, lots of the pictures of Shiva, he's blue. And Ram, I've seen that they show him sometimes as blue. So I wonder, is blue significant? Sorry.
Already explained to you. I don't know whether you registered. Blue clothed in yellow.
Blue, sorry?
Blue wearing a yellow dress. I already explained. In the case of Krishna, blue represents the infinite. Blue is the color of the sky. Blue is the color of the oceans. Represents the infinite. And yellow represents the color of earth. So that infinite has come into a finite form.
Yeah, okay.
You know, the blue clothed in yellow is so blue means infinite.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get that then. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Suresh,
Namaskaram. What happens after next week?
we'll tell you. There'll be a gap, but I'll take Dhyana shlokas afterwards, not straight away. After we do the lectures in June. So the marketing team has worked it out, and based on that, we'll take it. But eventually, I'll take up the Atma Bodha in this class, but not straight away. But over a period of time, I'll do a few more things and then take up Atma Bodha, the book.
I'm just concerned about my withdrawal things.
No, come for the other classes. So there are classes in the week where you come. We are distributing it throughout the week in various classes. And also gives a chance for people to consolidate their learning. So if you're just hearing all the time, you don't get a chance to sit and think and consolidate. So
eventually the Sundays will begin again.
Of course.
That's all I wanted to check.
Of course. I'll come back again. Soumya?
Namaskaram, Bhaskarji.
Hi.
I've heard in the past, I don't know where I've got this from, that whoever was kind of killed by like Krishna, Rama, they attained moksha afterwards. But in the case of like the big bad guys like Kamsa and Ravana, it's been explained to me that it's because they were constantly thinking of Rama or Krishna, and that's why they attained moksha. But considering that they were doing kind of such bad actions while also thinking of the gods, why is it that they still attained moksha?
See, the significance is that enlightenment can be obtained through single-pointed concentration. So when you single-pointedly focus and the last thought goes away, the last thought drops, then you attain enlightenment. So two things you have to take into account. One is the single-pointedness and the removal of the last thought, which is what happened with Ekalavya. As an archer, he had only one thought of archery, single-pointed he was. And then when Drona asked him to cut the thumb, that desire for archery dropped, the last thought dropped, and he got enlightenment. In the sake of Ravana, in the sake of all these evil persons, they had a single-pointed hatred. You understand? It was not an ordinary hatred. Single-pointed hatred they had, which was the last thought. No other thought was there. All the thoughts were focused on that hatred, single-pointed thought. So when Rama killed Ravana, that last thought went away. So when the last thought went away, he achieved self-realization. So, but you can't practice that. See, in fact, it's very difficult to practice single-pointed hatred. So to get enlightenment, you have to go through positivity. Ultimately, you have to become positive to get enlightenment. But the principle is what they are highlighting. Anything single-pointed, if you focus, and then that last thought is removed, then you will achieve enlightenment. Narendra? Unmute. Unmute, sir. You're not able to.
Namaste. You mentioned that we have just finished a book. Which book are we going to finish by next week?
It's called Symbolism of Hindu Gods and Rituals.
Oh, okay. The title of the course is okay. Right.
Symbolism of Hindu Gods and Rituals by A. Parthasarathy. The author's name is A. Parthasarathy.
Okay. One more question. We learned about the symbolism of the rituals, etc.
Hmm.
So if we do prayers every day, is it still required? If we are going to
Not required, not essential. To the extent it, in other words, your ritual shouldn't become mechanical.
Yes.
But if you're doing the ritual, if you're praying and it inspires you, then keep doing it. So to the extent it gives you that inspiration. See, for some people, if they do a prayer for 2 minutes is enough. For some people, they need to do for 10 minutes. So according to your personality makeup, you do it to the extent you get that inspiration. But you don't have to force yourself to do it mechanically every day.
Right.
It's
Okay.
not essential. It's nothing to do with the actual performance of the ritual, but what effect it has on the mind. That is more important.
Okay. So it's not absolutely necessary just to give you focus on what you're trying to achieve.
Yes. Yes. Shrikala.
Hari Om Bhaskarji.
Yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned about Krishna when he was born, all his vasanas were exhausted. So, but he also had to die, even though he was an enlightened soul, right? So,
Everybody who is born will have to die.
okay.
Birth means death. But Brahman has no birth and death. Krishna has birth and death. Christ has birth and death. Muhammad had birth and death.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to, the body of Krishna is different from the real Krishna. Real Krishna is the Atman. The real Krishna has no birth and death. But the physical Krishna, the body of Krishna has a birth and death.
Okay, and yeah, is it possible to know who an enlightened soul is? Like, if say Krishna were to live in today's world, would we know, or
We wouldn't
other
know.
no,
Wouldn't.
we wouldn't know.
To understand an enlightened person, you need to be enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're enlightened or somewhere really close to enlightenment, you will not know. So that's why none of these great masters were known during their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
When they lived, nobody understood their greatness. They were understood only 50 years or 100 years later. Even then, they only were understood partially. Not their greatness, nobody understood.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Suresh? Unmute.
I thought I had unmuted. Apologies. Would you be at some stage looking at other rituals as well? Because Hinduism is full of rituals like.
I'm not going to go to too much extent. I've given you all the idea. Now it's up to you all to apply it and work it out.
Got it.
And that's why I said you all need time to consolidate it. So what I would recommend is you apply it to other rituals, which I might not have covered it. And if you have any questions, please bring it. I'll be very happy to explain that.
Right. I know. I'm only. I was reading about the scientific basis, for example, for Surya Namaskar, and they were saying that initially people thought it was just a ritual, but they've now realized the benefits of early morning sun on your body and things like that. So there was a lot of discovering of the scientific basis behind some of the rituals, and which was quite interesting. I just thought I'd mention it.
Yes. Focus on the philosophical meaning of it, not associated things. Get to the philosophy. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. On that note, is any announcement finished?
Not today, Bhaskarji.
Nothing.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right, everyone. On the note, let's conclude. Hari Om, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hari Om
Bhaskarji.
Thank you very much. Hari Om. Thank you. Pranam.
Hari Om. Thank you very much.
Hari Om. Thank you, Bhaskarji.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.